Welcome back to 100 Days of 6-Minute Stories. My name is Andrea and we are on day 10, 1/10 of the way down. Please excuse any background noise. I have roommates and my room is like an acoustic jungle gym for ambient noise. First, I just wanted to send my heartfelt thoughts, prayers, and condolences to any of my friends who lost someone recently. It's been a really rough week for a lot of people, and I just wanted to say that even if you don't feel personally impacted by what's going on right now, just know that you never know what's going on with the next person over in their life. Well, recently I've been having this kind of pervasive thought about permanence, and permanence is not something that I would say that I've lived my life doctrine by. I think I've moved apartments almost every year since I was 18. I have what I call itchy feet, as a modern day vagabond, if you will. And because of this, because I was always roaming around, I never had the same understanding of this sentiment of being homesick or missing home. At the time, my parents, we didn't have our family home anymore. My parents weren't together. So I didn't feel, by junior year of college, I felt like wherever I lived was home, and that was okay for me. So that said, I'm still part of all the family group texts. I check in with my mother once every week or so. So it wasn't often checking in. I was very tunnel vision on school and work and anything else that was in front of me, in front of my face at the time. So junior year midterm week, I remember I was in a state of panic because I left a paper, a 10-page paper, to the 11th hour, and it's something that I'm culprit to doing more often than not. And instead of doing this paper, instead of continuing to lay out the foundations and outline even of this paper, I was so exhausted. I was doing so many things at school that I was exhausted to the point where I couldn't think. I was too tired to sleep, but I was also doing everything I could to stay awake. I was eating chocolate-covered coffee beans, and at one heightened point in the delirium, I think I reached a pinnacle of nirvana, or what I would imagine 3 a.m. paper crunch nirvana to be. And that ended up being the sentiment of really missing my family deeply. I was thinking about them, and it was like this realization that even though we don't have a house, that they are my home, as cheesy as it sounds. So I did what any rational thinking adult would decide to do, and I decided to get a tattoo to commemorate them. Okay, so I didn't end up getting up out of my bed and finding the nearest tattoo parlor that might have been open after hours. No, I ended up strategically researching tattoos and tattoo artists, and figuring out what my vision for the best tattoo would be. I had no interest prior to this moment in getting one, but I had made that decision then and there, and I was going to follow through with it. So I'm not an artist. I can vaguely sketch, but instead, thank goodness for clip art, I took different clip art visuals and put them together in this sheet so that I could send a request for a mock-up to some local tattoo artists. So the first one was a track shoe, as you know, signifying the sport that everyone in my family did. The next was an art palette representing my wonderfully talented twin sister. The third was an ink and quill because my brother and I were avid writers at the time. and now my older sister is even going into copywriting. And the last but not least was a violin, representing my connection to music and how much it's impacted me. And in the middle of what I would call this constellation was the image of the Gemini twins with linked arms. My twin sister and I are actually Gemini, and on their leg in tiny print it says Pinin and Kakra, which means the older twin and the younger twin. So it sounds like a lot describing it verbally, but I sent that mock-up and they sent me back this beautiful, I don't even know how they took clip art and made it into something actually appealing, but they made me a beautiful mock-up of a constellation. So I put that image on my laptop for the next 3 weeks so that I could look at it every day and ensure that I did not just have sort of a mind melding moment where I was highly caffeinated and sleep deprived, and that I really wanted this piece of artwork permanently placed on my body. And it turns out that it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my entire life. The actual experience of getting the tattoo, that's another story for another day. But it, my own personal way brought me much closer to the understanding that, family is really about a unity of individuals with a vast amount of differences, whether it's blood or chosen family. You all come together and respect your varying talents and are able to merge into different connections. So at the heart of all of this, I just want to assure all you family and friends who do not hear from me as much as I think that I should work on, expressing my gratitude for you. I'm telling you now that I miss you and I love you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.